Well, good morning, American. How are you? Don't you know me? I'm your native son, the Boston Cowboy, casting out my rays of light from the beautiful New England area. Today we have Mr. Alastair Crooke. He's an Irish citizen. And let's see, he was born in the 30th of June, 1949. And he is also a former British diplomat. And believe it or not, Mr. Crooke here worked nearly 30 years in the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. And before that, he started his whole entire career in the London banking system. Then went on to MI6, where he served under diplomatic cover in Northern Ireland, Southern Africa, Cambodia, Colombia, Pakistan, and the Middle East. And believe it or not, his early work included helping provide weaponry to jihadists fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan and assisting in the Northern Ireland peace process. And then in 1997, he became this security advisor to the EU Special Envoy to the Middle East, operating out of the British Embassy in Tel Aviv, Israel. And he was involved in British attempts to bring Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other Palestinian groups into the political process. Uh huh. Interesting. He was involved in negotiations to end the Israeli army siege of Yasser Arafat's compound in Ramallah and the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem. Interesting. Interesting. He assisted the negotiation of several local truces between the Israelis and Palestinians during the early 2000s. And Mr. Alastair Crooke had good contacts with the Israeli military and intelligence service. Uh huh. Very, very interesting. In 2001, British Ambassador to Israel Francis Cornish described him as a person who worked with the security apparatuses of both sides. He went into action after they stopped trusting each other and developed a special skill to persuade them of the logic of things and to bridge the lack of confidence between them. Interesting. His MI6 background was unknown when he was a British diplomat. And it was actually exposed by an Israeli newspaper called Ma'arif in 2002. And then in September 2003, he was instructed to leave the Middle East against his wishes because of personal security reasons. Interesting. So he had to leave Israel in Tel Aviv in the British diplomatic job he had at the British Embassy because he was outed as MI6. Okay. And then, believe it or not, now this is where it gets interesting. Very, very interesting. Since 2018. Now, keep in mind, he was providing the jihadists weaponry to fight in Afghanistan against the Soviets, okay, in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Then in 2018, he has been frequently writing for a Russian think tank out of Moscow called the Strategic Culture Foundation. The United States has deemed them a propaganda arm of the Russian state. including their website and their paper. And basically, they're an apparatus of propaganda for the Russians. And this here gentleman, Alastair Crooke, he was frequently writing for the Russian think tank, and I'm sure he has some good contacts there. And as an MI6 agent, you know, nothing less can be expected. And so we don't know who exactly Alastair Crooke is, who he works for, what his real views are. Does he like the jihadists? Does he not? Does he only like the jihadists when they're fighting Russians? How about if the jihadists were all of a sudden fighting Israel? Would he like them? If they were fighting the United States, would he like them? But then later on, we see he's writing for a Russian think tank out of Moscow. I presume he's getting paid by them. I mean, you're working for him, right? And then, so while he's doing that in 2018, about 5 years later, since 2023, he has been writing for the US based Eurasia Review. Also, he's a frequent guest on YouTube podcast Andrew Napolitano's Judging Freedom. So he is in a position now to judge freedom with the good old Judge Napolitano, who I don't mind from time to time. He is an interesting character, that judge, no doubt about it. And he does have some interesting guests, as Mr. Alastair Crooke is one of them. So let's see what Mr. Alastair Crooke has got to say on good old Professor Glenn Diesen's podcast. And yeah, we'll get some views about what he's got to say. Let's listen.
In short, the US appears to have started something that will be very difficult to put back together. I was just wondering, how are you reading this situation in terms of this, I guess, spiraling out of control?
Uh, well, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, you know, it's mildly on flame at the moment, but it is on flame throughout the region. And Trump and his attack on Iran is responsible for this upsurge in, if you like, conflicts and destabilizing. They are, as you say, all interlinked, but they also all have separate agendas. This is what makes it impossible now, in my view, for the United States to get an agreement with Iran. I mean, there are other reasons too, but I mean, it's become a really complex matrix of interests and agendas, which, before it was a binary, negotiation between Iran and the US. And now even Trump is saying, well, in future, now we've got to have the Houthis. Remember, it wasn't so long ago, he said, well, we've got to have Hezbollah. Hezbollah called me up. And I said, you have to join in the talks. I mean, that's a joke, of course, but I mean, it all sort of underlines the complexity. So if you start with the most complex part or the most complicated one from the US perspective, it will be Yemen. And what happened, just to give a little background to your listeners, if that's all right, is it really, there's been a ceasefire underway with Saudi Arabia, and also there has been a siege by Saudi Arabia of the Houthi Ansar Allah part of Yemen for more than 10 years, siege on ports and airports. And of course, the Houthis strongly resent and object to this. Well, what triggered it all was that they had prepared the delegation to go and attend the funeral um, uh, uh, commemorations for the assassinated supreme leader in Iran, and were invited. And the Iranians sent a civil airliner to Sana'a Airport, were sending a civil airliner to Sana'a Airport to collect the delegation to go and attend the funeral. Saudi Arabia said this was against their siege, so they bombed the airport, Sana'a International Airport, to prevent the plane landing. In fact, the plane did land at Hodeidah, and the delegation went to Iran and returned. And as a consequence, then we're on the verge of, closely on the verge of war between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. So that's really why it came into being. And so Yemen then declared, rather along the Iranian lines, okay, siege for siege. You've imposed for 10 years a siege on us. We impose a siege on Saudi Arabia. And that meant effectively the closure of the Red Sea to the ports of Saudi Arabia. Please note, because I think it's important that it doesn't mean the closure of the Red Sea to all shipping. It means the closure of the Red Sea to Saudi shipping. Now, there are a few wrinkles in it. The Saudis have tried to slip a couple of tankers through towards the Suez. And two tankers have been struck that were heading towards Bab al-Mandab by the Yemenis. But what the Yemenis are now doing is effectively they are warning empty tankers coming to the Yanbu port facility and saying, go back, don't come here because you will be stopped. So this is a major affair. The total oil passage through that Yanbu facility, I think, was something between 6 and 7 million barrels a day. And that certainly will no longer be flowing into the Western market. And that has been much exacerbated by the attack on the Diesen refinery, the Aramco refinery close to the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. Now, this is not just any refinery attack. I'm saying that because we're so used to, in the Russian context, there'll be reports that there's been another attack on a Russian refinery and, and lots of black smoke. And then when we look at it a bit more closely, we find, the damage was repaired in a few hours and it's back in operation. With the Diesen refinery, first of all, it's not just a refinery. It is the refinery. It is an all singing, all dancing, does everything refinery that is the most modern in the world, apparently. But it not just distills oil products. It does a lot more, and it is burning, and it is still burning, and it is burnt, really burnt. So when you look at this, so the Saudi oil loss, I mean, if you take it all together, is probably about getting on for maybe 20% of the oil that was passing through the Red Sea. You add that to the Hormuz amount, which is much more. It varies from day to day, but it's probably about another 22% of world oil supply. You're talking about a big hit to the world oil supply.
Okay, so he's basically just talking about oil refinery, oil movement, oil production, oil financial markets. Okay. So let's think about this in a logical way. We have there the Suez Canal, which is responsible for moving predominantly oil through oil tankers and what have you. Oil tankers. That's it. United States comes in and supposedly Iran shuts down the Suez Canal. Okay. Then there is a supposed truce and traffic starts moving. But then all of a sudden, the United States don't like what's going on with the negotiations and they form a blockade of the Suez Canal. So we got both sides now blocking the Suez Canal. Supposedly, I mean, we only know what the news tells us. But who does that benefit, right? Who benefits from the blocking of the Suez Canal? And that's all you really need to know about this situation, right? The benefit of the blocking of the Suez Canal leads to higher oil prices, less supply, less oil movement, and it leads to higher prices per barrel of oil. Hell, we seen it here and there, everywhere. The price of gasoline to fill your car has almost doubled. In some cases has doubled and then more so. So who is really making out in this here blockade? Iran probably wants that open so they can move their oil and sell it to China and Russia and Japan and South Korea because that will help them. So who really benefits? It's the financial markets and the oil speculators and the oil quote unquote cartels that run the oil and run the infrastructure. And now he's talking about the Aramco most modern facility of oil refinery and oil production, and the whole world is now burning, is burnt, has been burnt, and pretty much destroyed. So, what does that lead to? Less oil. And then some oil cartel is going to get a big old juicy contract to go in and rebuild that. And it's probably going to be funneled through, I don't know, some president of some country's LLC. I'm just taking a guess. But it seems like this perpetual war we are now in, which has no end, these troops under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States that are over there, the American troops, they can be there indefinitely. There's no end to this deployment. If he was, the president was following Article 1, then it would have to come under congressional approval for a declaration of war. But because it's under Article 2, it's solely the executive arm of the United States government that is conducting this here operation without any oversight. So it's basically one person that has decided the fate of the United States and the globe. And the benefit to all of this goes to oil cartels. That's right. So, I mean, we can put two and two together. It doesn't take a real rocket scientist Elon Musk. It doesn't take you to tell us what is going on. We all know what's going on over there. It's mainly for the profiteering and speculation of oil. Because come the weekends, we have a deal is on the table, oil prices go down, and then come Monday, Tuesday, the deal is off the table. Iran has not been negotiating in good faith. Oil prices go back up every weekend since this has begun. I'm just saying. I just call it like I see it, folks. So, Alastair Crooke here, I think he's just towing the party line. He ain't going to go against the grain. None. He's basically saying, look at what Iran is doing. They're going after all these other countries, and they're pulling Yemen into it and Saudi Arabia into it, and Yemen is gonna be blowing up Saudi Arabia and vice versa. I mean, that may be so, but the benefit is really for one class of people. And yeah, they may rile up that ant pile over there and get them so stir crazy that this war escalates into some religious faction, jihadist, who knows what. And they would love that, I guarantee it, because that gives them cover to go in and now say, look, they're destroying all of our oil infrastructure. They're destroying, why? And let me ask you this. Why would a country that is at war with another country, both of them need oil, right? So why would they go after any oil production facility and blow it up? That don't make a lick of sense. Everybody getting oil from Aramco. Everywhere. So I don't get it. I mean, I do get it, because they want to destroy that to get a new contract of building it up again, and then excuse me, interweaving and interwoven a new contract with certain LLCs involved in the negotiations and the getting of the prices of the oil that is moving through that their facility. I don't know, folks. They say it's a one thing type of war, and the real tragedy of it is they got American boys over there, young, old, taken away from their families, taken away from their jobs and their kids over there fighting this thing here for. Iran didn't ever attack the United States, so why are we over there? I mean, at least with 9/11, you could say, hey, they attacked us, so we got to go. No doubt about it. But now, what has Iran done, really, to the United States? And don't give me this nuclear weapon. They don't have a nuclear weapon. They've been working with Russia. Russia is pretty smart. Iranian physicists are damn smart. They know what they're doing. And if they're not making them there, then, they're either supplying Iranian physicists over into China and making them there and bringing them back. Who knows, man? But they know how to make a nuclear weapon. They're not stupid. I mean, this technology is down there almost 100 years old now. Come on. It's as old as an automobile. That's like saying, well, we can't let the Iranians get an automobile. We can't let them build an automobile because then they'll be moving that much faster around their country. We can't have that. Dude, that's 100-year-old technology at this point. It doesn't take a genius to look through the research and figure it out. Like, these people are smart. They're not stupid. Why you keep on harping on this for the past 25, 30 years? We can't let Iran get a nuclear weapon. They're 5 years out from again. Dude, it's been 5 years out for the last 25 years. So they should have a weapon, nuclear weapon, 5 times over by now. in 25 years, they should have a 5X nuclear weapon. You see what I'm saying? It ain't no this here argument is for the birds, folks. It's for the birds. We all know why. We've seen what they done in Venezuela. They wanted to go after their oil production facility, their oil capacity, and their minerals, which we got. And at least with that, you could say, hey, they're bringing drugs over. We got to go after that and go after the facility where they're originating these drug movements from. And the American people, for the most part, bought it. They don't want to see drugs being flooded in the United States. But with Iran, what's Iran been doing? What has Iran done? Let me ask you that. What has Iran done? I'm not saying that now that we're there, we got to turn tail. But to get us in there in the first place, I didn't see why we needed to go. But now that we're there, we gotta, I guess, finish the job. I don't know. And make sure that our boys get home safe. It's just a damn shame that we gotta see, Americans that signed up for the military thinking the United States has been a pretty safe country to serve the military in, and I could get a good career and get college education and this and that. And now they're over there on some ship lacing up missiles and drones to be flying out sorties over the mountains of Iran. And next, if this continues, it's going to be troop deployment over in that area. And God knows what is going to happen with that. It's going to be like a D-Day 2027, 2028 type of situation where they're trying to land and they're just getting fired upon from the mountains. Because that's that whole coastline is probably mountain. But anyway, I do thank y'all for watching. And stay safe, stay free. By golly, don't believe everything you see. The Boston Cowboy. Adios.